For years, you try to find your place in a blended family. You're not the parent, but you're way more than a friend. You're the homework helper, the snack maker, the ride to soccer practice, the shoulder to cry on. You live in this weird, undefined space where every step is careful and your biggest contributions are quiet ones. You learn to walk the tightrope of family loyalties, to respect boundaries you didn't create, and to love kids you didn't bring into this world with everything you have, all while knowing your official title is vague at best. You're a permanent part of their lives, yet you can't shake the feeling of being a guest in someone else's history. Then, one day, an email from the school pops up, and your entire world shifts. Your 17-year-old stepkids, without a word to you, without any big talk or fanfare, went into their school's online portal and listed you as their emergency contact. And in that one silent digital moment, two massive, conflicting feelings hit you like a tidal wave. The incredible, heart-swelling honor of being chosen, and the terrifying, ice-in-your-veins reality of what that actually means. Today, we're going to get into that exact moment. We're talking about what happens when your role in the family doesn't just evolve. It gets completely rewritten overnight. We'll explore the joy, the fear, and the absolute maze of legal and emotional questions you have to figure out when the kids you've helped raise quietly hand you a level of trust you never expected, and a responsibility you're not sure you're ready for. This is the story of how I went from step-parent to emergency contact and everything I had to learn and unlearn all the way. The backstory: a decade of finding my place to get why a simple change in a school database felt like an earthquake. You have to understand the ground it was sitting on. My life as a step-parent didn't start with some big dramatic movie moment. It started quietly and very cautiously. When I fell in love with my husband, he came as a package deal with two amazing, funny, incredibly smart 7-year-old twins. They were a tornado of energy and questions, and I knew from day one that building a relationship with them would be the most delicate and important work of my life. Their mom is, and always has been, a fantastic, very involved parent. Our co-parenting dynamic wasn't a battlefield, but it was definitely a world of separate territories. There was mom's house and there was dad's house. Their rules and our rules. I walked into this world not as a replacement, but as an addition, an unknown variable. And for a long, long time, that's how I felt. Like an outsider with a front row seat to the family. I remember those early years so clearly. That constant feeling of trying to be helpful without overstepping. Do I jump in on the third-grade science project, or is that mom's thing? If my husband sets a punishment, do I enforce it, or does that ruin my chance of being the fun step-parent? Every single day was a series of tiny negotiations, with myself and with the unspoken rules of the family. The kids were polite but distant. They were just kids, trying to process a new family structure they never asked for. It was just another adult in their life, one they hadn't chosen. The classic step-parent struggles were my reality. I felt that little sting of being the only one in the family photo on the mantle who didn't share DNA. I learned to navigate birthdays and holidays like a diplomat. Always worried about whose feelings I might accidentally hurt or whose traditions we might be trampling on. I'd sit at parent-teacher conferences as a silent observer, there to support my husband. The teacher aimed all the real talk at him and his ex-wife. It wasn't mean, it was just the default setting. I wasn't a legal parent, so in the eyes of the world, I was a spectator. But slowly, by painful, a real relationship started to build. It wasn't built on big gestures. It was built in the small, quiet moments, in 1,000 car rides, singing terribly off-key to the radio. It was built on me learning exactly how they liked their grilled cheese cut crusts off diagonal slice. It was built on late-night talks when one of them couldn't sleep. It was built on me just showing up consistently, year after year, to the band concerts, the swim meets, the school plays where they had exactly one line. I never tried to be their mom, They already had a great one. I was trying to be something else, a trusted adult, a safe space. I learned to stop thinking about my role in terms of what I couldn't do. I can't sign permission slips. I can't make doctor's appointments, and started focusing on what I could do. I could offer a different perspective. I could be a neutral party when they were mad at their parents, both of them. I could just listen without all the baggage of their parents' history. When they hit their teens, things shifted again. They were figuring out who they were, and in a way that leveled the playing field. I wasn't just dad's wife anymore. I was a person who had been a constant in their lives for a decade. They had inside jokes. They'd text me for advice about friends or school, sometimes stuff they didn't want to ask their parents about. These were the little wins, the moments that made all the years of feeling like an outsider just melt away. I had earned a piece of their trust, and it felt more valuable than gold. I thought this was it. This comfortable, loving space we'd carved out. I'd made my peace with the limits of my role. I knew that in an emergency, I'd be on the sidelines. My job was to support my husband, who would then support the kids. That was the chain of command. I accepted it. I was happy with it. I had found my place. I had zero idea that the kids were about to take a Sharpie to the family blueprint and redraw the whole thing. The turning point, the notification, and the two-tone feather happened on a Tuesday. A totally forgettable, gray, drizzly Tuesday afternoon. I was working from home, hammering away at my keyboard, buried in spreadsheets. My husband was at the office, the twins were at school, surviving the jungle of junior year. An email popped up. The subject line was boring, something from the school district. Student information verification. I almost deleted it. But for whatever reason, I clicked it open. It was the standard automated message reminding parents to log into the school portal to make sure all the contact info was up to date. Out of habit, I logged in. I have a Guardian account, which lets me see grades and the lunch menu, but gives me zero actual authority. It's basically a courtesy login. I clicked on my stepson's profile first. Name, address, allergies all correct. Then I scrolled down to emergency contacts. And that's when I saw it. Contact 1. Mother's name, contact 2. Father's name, contact 3. My name, I just stared. My name, my phone number. My relationship listed as step-parent. It wasn't there last year. For 10 years, it had only been my husband and his ex-wife. That was the rule. That was the deal. My first thought was, it's a mistake, a glitch. Maybe my husband did it and forgot to tell me. I quickly clicked over to my stepdaughter's profile. Same thing. Mom, Dad, and then me. My heart started pounding. I texted my husband, "Hey, did you update the kids' school info? It's showing me as an emergency contact." His reply came back a minute later. "No, haven't logged in yet. Mom was supposed to do it." Why? And that's when the first word hit me. The awe. It was a physical feeling, a warmth that bloomed in my chest. He had done it. The kids. They were 17, old enough to have the password to update their own stuff. They had sat down at a computer, logged in, and deliberately found my name. After a decade of me carefully tiptoeing around the parent-step-parent line, they just reached across and pulled me over. It was a quiet statement. A, you're one of us. A, we trust you, and if something goes wrong, we want you there. In that moment, 10 years of wondering if I was doing anything right just vanished. It was the ultimate validation, and it didn't come from my husband or their mom. It came from them. They saw me. They saw the role I played and gave it a name. Emergency contact. It felt sacred, but then the second wave crashed over me, and this one was ice cold. The fear, the absolute gut-wrenching. What does this even mean, fear? What if something actually happens? A car accident? A medical emergency at school? What if they call me first? What am I legally allowed to do? Can I authorize medical treatment? Can I even pick them up from the nurse without a signed Note from a bio parent. The title emergency contact suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. It was a two-tone feather, beautiful symbol of their trust, but also a terrifying weight of responsibility. I have zero legal rights to these kids. For 10 years, that fact had been a strange kind of shield protecting me from a responsibility I wasn't supposed to have. Okay? Now, they'd handed me the responsibility anyway, without any of the legal authority to back it up. My mind started spinning through worst-case scenarios. The school nurse calls me. Your stepson is having a severe allergic reaction. Can I tell them to use the EpiPen? Or do I have to waste precious seconds trying to get a bio parent on the phone? The school calls, your stepdaughter was in a fight. Can I go deal with the principal, or will I be told to wait in the car like a concerned neighbor? I felt completely stuck. I was so honored by their trust, but terrified by my own powerlessness. It's the ultimate step-parent paradox to be given all the emotional weight of a parent with none of the legal power. In my stepkids' eyes, I was a parent. In the eyes of the law, I was basically a stranger. And that gap, the canyon between how they saw me and what I could actually do for them, was the scariest place I'd ever been. That Tuesday, the quiet comfort I'd found in my role was gone, replaced by a screaming, urgent question. Okay, what do I do now? The deep dive, untangling the legal and emotional knot that initial tidal wave of honor and fear eventually receded, leaving a beach full of sharp, practical questions. The kids would be home in a few hours. My husband would be home from work. This wasn't something we could just talk about later. This felt like a fundamental update to our family's operating system installed by its youngest members. I knew my next moves were critical. I had to get smart, fast. The first phone call getting legal clarity, my first instinct was to find someone who dealt in facts, not feelings. I needed to know the actual legal ground I was standing on. Before my husband even got home, I did something I never thought I would. I Googled family law attorney blended families and made a call. I booked a consultation for the next day. That hour with the lawyer was one of the most sobering and clarifying conversations of my life. I laid out the whole story. She listened patiently, and then she laid out the cold, hard truth. She started by explaining what emergency contact really means, legally speaking. Basically, it's just a name on a list. It's the person a school or hospital calls to let them know something has happened. It does not, in most places, automatically grant you any legal power. She said being listed as an emergency contact doesn't give you the right to make decisions. Then she broke it down. Medical decisions. This was my biggest fear, and the reality was stark. Without specific legal paperwork, I could not authorize medical treatment. In a true life or death situation, a hospital would probably act to save the child. But for anything else, setting a broken bone, giving stitches, approving medicine, my hands would be tied. I could drive them to the ER, but I couldn't consent to their care. I'd just be the chauffeur in a crisis waiting for a bio parent to answer their phone. Educational decisions. Same deal at school. Couldn't sign a permission slip. I couldn't have a formal meeting about a disciplinary issue without a bio parent there, or giving their express permission. The bottom line, the lawyer summed it up with a phrase that's burned into my brain. You have all of the emotional responsibility of a parent with none of the legal authority. The law sees you as a legal stranger to those children, despite the reality of your life. It was brutal to hear, but it was what I needed. The fear I was feeling wasn't crazy. It was a Spartan assessment of a really vulnerable situation. But she didn't leave me there. She then shifted to solutions. She said, let's talk about how we fix this. Let's bridge that gap between how your family actually lives and what the law recognizes. She gave me a few options, mainly a big one that we could do right away. Power of attorney and medical consent forms. This was the immediate practical fix. She explained we could have documents drafted and signed by both biological parents that would grant me specific powers in an emergency. It wouldn't make me a legal parent, but it would give me the authority to act when it mattered most. It was, she said, the essential first aid kit for our situation. I left that meeting with a clear head and a mission. The fear was still there, but now it had a purpose. I knew what we had to do. Part B, the family conversation, the hardest, best talk that evening. I went into the conversation with a totally different energy. When the kids got home, I didn't lead with fear or legal problems. I led with honor. I found them in the kitchen grabbing a snack. I took a deep breath. Hey guys, I saw you updated your school emergency contacts. Hey? And I saw you added me. They both stopped and looked at me, a little wary. My stepson just shrugged. Yeah, we had to update it. You're here all the time. It just made sense. His sister added, if something happened, you're usually the first one home. We figured it'd be faster if they called you. Was that simple, that logical? It wasn't some grand emotional gesture to them. It was just a reflection of their daily reality. I was the one who was there. My eyes welled up. Well, I said, my voice getting a little thick. I want you to know that means the world to me. It's a huge honor that you trust me like that. Really. Later that night, after the kids were in their rooms, I sat down with my husband. I told him everything, the email, the panic, the lawyer. I laid out the legal reality. He was floored. It's just like me and the kids. He assumed emergency contact meant something. He thought that in a crisis, the system would just work. Realizing the legal limitations was a wake-up call for him. Two, the last and trickiest conversation had to be with the kid's mom. I was nervous about this. Our relationship was friendly, but we stayed in our lanes. It required building a bridge. My husband made the call. He started by telling her what the kids had done and how touched we both were. He framed it as a good thing, a sign of a healthy family. Then, he gently moved to the practical side. He explained what I learned from the lawyer, that for my name on that list to mean anything, we needed her help. He made it clear this wasn't about me replacing her. It was about getting the kids the fastest care possible. It was about them. And to her absolute credit, she got it instantly. No defensiveness, no fighting over territory. Her response was as practical as the kids. Of course, she said. If you're the one they're going to call, you need to be able to do something. What do we need to sign? Part C. The paperwork building the family go bag the next week was a blur of paperwork. Following the lawyer's advice, we drafted a step-parent authorization for consent to medical treatment, giving me authority to consent to medical care if a bio-parent couldn't be reached. We had another form for the school authorizing me to talk to staff and pick up the kids. The four of us, me, my husband, the kid's mom, and her husband met at a coffee shop on a Saturday to sign everything. It felt huge. We got both sets notarized. One set for us, one for her. I immediately took copies to the school nurse and put a set in the glove compartment of my car. We even created a digital version that all four of us have on our phones. This little stack of papers became our family's legal go bag. It was the proof that our blended family was more than just people living in two different houses. A team. We took a moment that could have been a crisis and turned it into a chance to make our families stronger and more secure for our kids. The fear didn't disappear, but it changed. The weight of responsibility was now shared, held up by a legal frame we had all built together. The honor, though, that only got bigger. It was no longer just about the kids choosing me. It was about all four of us adults choosing to put their safety first. Broader insights. What to do when your role suddenly shifts. This whole thing was a crash course in what it means to be a step-parent today. It took me from a place of quietly accepting my role to proactively shaping it. And I realized my story touches on a truth for so many blended families. Our roles are not set in stone. They change, and sometimes they change in an instant. The real question is, are we ready when they do? Based on everything I went through, Here's the playbook. I wish I'd had one. Lead with thank you. Follow with okay, now what? If your stepchild gives you a new level of trust, your first job is to recognize the honor. Whether they say I love you for the first time or list you as their emergency contact, it's a gift. Start by saying thank you. That means so much. To me, this validates their feelings and makes your bond stronger. But don't stop there. After the emotion comes the practical. You have to ask, so what does this mean? And what do we need to do to make it work? That's not killing the vibe. It's respecting it. True respect means making sure you can actually follow through. Point 2. The 3 essential conversations. When your role shifts, it sends ripples through the whole family. To handle it well, you need to have 3 separate talks, probably in this order. With your partner, this is your strategy session. You two need to be a united front. Share how you feel, the good and the bad. Get on the same page about the legal stuff. Your partner might be as clueless as you were. Figure out a plan together for how you'll approach the other parent. This unity is your foundation. With the kids, keep it simple. You don't need to dump a bunch of legal jargon on them. You just need to understand where they were coming from and tell them you've got their back. Ask something like, I saw you did that, which is awesome. What made you think to add me? Their answer will probably be super simple and logical. Firm it. Let them know you're taking it seriously and that all the parents are working together to make sure you can be there for them like they want. With the other bio parent, this can feel like the scariest one, but it's essential. Have your partner lead this conversation. Frame it entirely around the kids' well-being, not a power grab. Use phrases like, we're so glad the kids see step-parent's name as someone they can count on. To honor that trust, we want to make sure she's legally able to help in an emergency. We'd like to work with you on the paperwork. You turn a potential conflict into a team project. Point 3. Don't assume. Get it in writing. We live our family lives on assumptions. We assume that in a crisis, people will do the right thing. But the law doesn't care about assumptions. It cares about documents. Don't wait for an emergency to learn what you can and can't do. Talk to a lawyer. Seriously. Even 1 hour can give you so much clarity. It's an investment in your family's safety. Get it signed and notarized. Work with the other parent to get medical, consent forms, travel authorizations, whatever you might need. Share it. Don't just file it away. Give copies to the school nurse and the pediatrician. Keep a copy in your car and a digital copy on your phone. Make sure all the parents have easy access to it. 4. Embrace the change. Finally, remember that your role as a step-parent is supposed to evolve. The person you are to a 7-year-old isn't who you'll be to a 17-year-old. There will be these surprising moments where your responsibility suddenly deepens. Don't run from them. When that shift happens, see it for what it is, a promotion you earned through years of showing up. It's proof that family isn't just about blood. It's about who you can count on when things get real. Being chosen by my stepkids forced me to step up and advocate for my ability to care for them. And in doing that, it cemented my place in our family in a way I never thought possible. Your moment might look different, but when it comes, meet it with an open heart and a solid plan. You've earned it. The path of a step-parent is never a straight line. For 10 years, I walked that path carefully, happy to be a supporting character. The day my stepkids made me their emergency contact, they didn't just change some text in a database. They redrew the map of our family. They showed me that the quiet role I'd been building was more important than I had ever let myself believe. That moment forced our whole family to have hard conversations, sign papers, and truly come together as a team of TEEV. For adults, united for these 2 incredible kids. It taught me that being an emergency contact is less about the emergency and more about being a contact, a point of trust and unwavering support. The legal papers in my glove box aren't just paper. They're a symbol of a family that chose to define itself by its love, not by its limits. Okay? They're proof that with open communication and respect, A blended family can build a safety net that's strong enough for everyone. The fear is gone, replaced by a sense of readiness. And the honor. The honor is everything. Now, I want to hear from you. The step-parenting journey is so different for everyone, but our stories are what connect us. What was your turning point? What was the small moment or big event that shifted your role in your family? Share your story in the comments. Let's create a space where we can learn from each other. Your story matters, and I can't wait to read it.